Welcome back, everyone. Today's story is one that really stuck with me, and I think it might do the same for you. So let's dive right in. Emma and Lily wandered through town after school as the evening sky faded into soft hues of pink and orange. At 17, like most girls their age, they were full of dreams about love and eager for the day they would walk down the aisle after graduation. Emma, however, had a sharp edge to her personality. She had a knack for getting herself into wild predicaments, often with unexpected consequences. Lily, in contrast, was soft-spoken and reserved. By the time they realized it, the streetlights were flickering on. It was nearing 9 p.m., and they hurried home, giggling over their shared daydreams. On their way, they noticed a tall guy talking on his phone, waving his arms around for emphasis. With his sweeping gestures, he accidentally bumped into Emma, who got startled. Realizing he'd scared her, the man hung up right away and apologized. Emma brushed it off with a grin, joking that maybe he should be more careful next time. One thing led to another, and the three started chatting. Turned out his name was Ryan. He was clearly much older than they were, so he kept his tone polite and calm. He asked for Emma's number before going on his way. The girls were so taken by this unexpected encounter that they spent the rest of the walk home talking about him nonstop. A few days later, Ryan called Emma, inviting both girls out to his family's cabin. He promised it would be a blast. In Emma's mind, this was their golden change. The following weekend, they set off to meet him. At the last minute, Lily got spooked. She worried something bad might happen out in the middle of nowhere. Emma tried to reassure her, "Don't worry, I'll protect you no matter what." When they arrived at the meeting spot, Ryan was already waiting with his friend Noah. Practically from the get-go, there was a spark between Noah and Lily. That chemistry banished any lingering fears in Lily. And out there, far from the city, the two embarked on a sweet little romance. Noah courted her in all the classic ways. Flowers, movie dates, gentle gestures. He recognized she was still innocent, so he never tried to push her into anything she wasn't ready for. After graduation, Noah proposed and they got married. Lily discovered grown-up relationships, and quickly realized she'd rushed into marriage with the first man in her life. One day, hidden desires broke free. At a friend's birthday party, she had a fling with a guy who seriously caught her eye. The next morning, Lily regretted everything, but it was already too late. A month later, she discovered she was pregnant. Her husband, who never even suspected Lily might have cheated, was over the moon, practically carrying her around like a queen. He felt so proud he'd claimed this sweet, innocent girl as his wife, clueless about what she was actually capable of. Lily gave birth to a baby girl, making Noah the happiest dad on earth. He took on childcare, without complaint, worrying himself sick whenever the little one got so much as a sniffle. He showered his wife with small tokens of love, bringing her treats from work and spoiling her whenever he could. Lily was glad she hadn't confessed her infidelity. Now she could enjoy a peaceful life. She felt certain Noah trusted her completely and would never demand a DNA test. He was completely smitten with their daughter. As the little girl's first birthday approached, the parents pulled out all the stops to make it unforgettable. They splurged on decorations, hired favorite cartoon characters, went all in for her big day. The celebration was fun but exhausting, so that night, they both fell asleep the instant their heads hit the pillows. In the middle of the night, Noah woke up craving water. Coming back to bed, he heard Lily mumbling in her sleep. At first he thought she might be calling for him, so he leaned in to listen. But what she said was definitely not meant for his ears. She was babbling that she hoped her husband never found out that Vicky wasn't his daughter. Noah bolted upright, wide awake. His mind spun 1,000 different directions, all hints of sleep gone. He couldn't decide if he'd heard right. Was this real or just nonsense from a dream? Doubt gnawed at him all the next day. Finally, he steeled himself. He'd have to get a DNA test done. The following days were absolute torture. He wandered around in a fog, waiting for the clinic to call. When the call finally came, he picked up the sealed envelope. Outside he found a bench, sat down with trembling hands, and opened the paper. The results ripped the ground out from under him. There was zero chance. He was the father. His head bowed, thoughts swirling. His entire life had been wrapped up in his wife and this child. He had no idea how to move forward. That evening he went to see his Liam Ryan. They drank heavily, and Noah at least got to unload his grief. He realized that the child herself was innocent in all this. It was Lily's betrayal at fault. He didn't want to cut off contact with sweet Ava just because of her mother's actions. Buzzed with liquor, he eventually wandered home, calling Lily on the way to ask her to drop Ava at her Nana's place so they could have a little fun, just the two of us. She was surprised, but did as asked, having no clue what her husband intended to discuss. He wanted to catch her off guard, giving her no chance to spin some story. Lily came home, noticed the smell of whiskey, and anxiously called out for Noah. He was in the bedroom rummaging around, so he didn't hear her right away. She tried again, sweetly calling his name. He emerged, brimming with anger, and demanded an explanation. Lily blinked, acting clueless. This brazen denial made Noah's blood boil. He snatched a manila envelope from a shelf and threw it at her feet. Inside were the DNA test results. Seeing that, Lily buried her face in her hands and burst into sobs. She confessed to cheating, begging him to forgive her. She claimed it was just that one time, because she was curious to try it with another man. Furious, Noah stepped forward and slapped her hard. He spat out that he'd always trusted her, felt proud to be her husband, and now he felt physically sick from the betrayal. She tried to hug him, but he shoved her away. Coming back to bed, he heard Lily mumbling in her sleep. At first he thought she might be calling for him, so he leaned in to listen. But what she said was definitely not meant for his ears. She was babbling that she hoped her husband never found out, that Vicky wasn't his daughter. Noah bolted upright, wide awake. His mind spun 1,000 different directions, all hints of sleep gone. He couldn't decide if he'd heard right. Was this real or just nonsense from a dream? Doubt gnawed at him all the next day. Finally, he steeled himself. He'd have to get a DNA test done. The following days were absolute torture. He wandered around in a fog, waiting for the clinic to call. When the call finally came, he picked up the sealed envelope. Outside he found a bench, sat down with trembling hands, and opened the paper. The results ripped the ground out from under him. There was zero chance. He was the father. His head bowed, thoughts swirling. His entire life had been wrapped up in his wife and this child. He had no idea how to move forward. That evening he went to see his Liam Ryan. He stormed out of the house, more certain of the truth than ever. The next day he filed for divorce. However, he refused to cut ties with Ava. He still considered himself her dad, no matter what. A few months later, a new piece of gossip reached Noah. He learned more about Lily's post-birth secrets. Apparently, every now and then, she'd been hooking up with someone they both knew, and now she was living with him. When Noah found out that this friend was none other than Ryan, the same Ryan he'd once confided in about his suspicions, he was beside himself with rage. He drove to Lily's place, planning to confront them, but ended up waiting by the entrance for ages. A neighbor happened by and mentioned they'd moved out. He tried to track down the new address, but nobody knew, and their phones were all disconnected. Before long, though, Lily showed up again. She didn't hide the truth. She came clean about everything. She admitted that since the very first time she'd met Ryan, she'd been infatuated with him. But back then, Ryan had shown interest in someone else, Emma, leaving Lily to settle for Noah, so she wouldn't be the odd one out. She told Noah she was grateful for him and loved him like a friend. After hearing that, Noah refused all contact with Lily and Ryan, but continued to see Ava regularly, bringing her treats and insisting he was her real father. The little girl was sad her parents no longer lived together, but her feelings didn't seem to register with the grown-ups. The whole ordeal changed Noah's personality. He found it impossible to trust women, and he barely had any friends left. In her presence, Noah found a quiet comfort he hadn't felt in years. Slowly, the walls around his heart began to crumble. One evening, as they sat beneath a starlit sky, she gently took his hand, and for the first time in a long while, he didn't pull away. Instead, he held on, realizing that maybe, just maybe, he was ready to let love in again.